Hi there, Coach Sage of VO2 Max Productions here with another training talk. Today we're going to talk about 2 mile or 3,200 meters or 3K types of training and racing. Thanks for voting on this comment as well as suggesting it. It's going to be fairly similar to the mile 1,500 talk that I just did last week to some extent, but at the same time it's also kind of like the 5K training talk that I did, because the 2 mile, the 3K, I'm gonna group them together. Whether you run, 8 laps around a 400 meter track, it's 3,200 meters. It's 18 meters short of real 2 miles, but close enough. Or the 3K. I ran the 3K in high school and college mainly. I wasn't great at it, but that was my main event. The training kind of differs depending on what background you're coming from. So in school, a lot of times we see the milers and the 800 meter runners, the shorter distance running specialists, I guess, are moving up maybe and doing a 2 mile. They also do cross country maybe, but it's a long distance for them. Whereas then we have the more pure distance guys and girls that do maybe mainly cross country, maybe 5K is their main gig, but in track the 2 miles is the longest event outdoors, at least in high school. So they're kind of moving down to the 2 mile. But it's relative, because if you're a really good miler, you're probably going to be pretty decent at the 2 mile. And likewise, if you're a really good 2 miler, you're probably not going to be too shabby at the mile, because they are closely related. But there's definitely more of an anaerobic component in the mile, whereas the 2 mile is almost all aerobic. It's almost all 100% VO2 max, which is what this channel is named after. But maximum oxygen capacity. Basically, you're operating all out, close to 100% of your maximum heart rate for however long it takes you. For the pros, it's 7 minutes something, and for a lot of you, maybe it's 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever. And this talk will specifically use trying to crack 10 minutes for the 2 mile. It's a nice round number, nice even pace, even splits. Well, we'll say 10 minutes for the 3,200, because then I could say 75 seconds per lap per 400 meters is the pace. And so if you're training to do that, or improve your 2 mile in general, but if you're training to do that, you're gonna need to be able to run the mile, you're gonna be able to have enough speed to run a mile at about 75 seconds per quarter for the 2 mile. So we go down 4 seconds per 400 meters, half the distance. You're looking at 71 seconds per 400 meters for the mile, or the 1,600. So, 444, 445, if you can't run under about 445, it's gonna be really, really hard to string together 2.5 flat or 459 miles to crack 10 for the 2 mile. So 445 is kind of the bare minimum type of speed you're looking at. And that's if you're trained really, really well, if you have really, really good endurance. Now, there's always a story of that one kid whose mile PR is 5:05, and then they have this huge breakthrough where they come through the first mile of the 2 mile and PR in the mile, and then keep it going. And so, that can happen. But generally, if you're pretty dialed in with your mile and 2 mile training, you need that kind of speed to be able to run 5 minutes back to back for the mile and to crack 10. So to get that stamina and the speed, it's a mix of stamina, endurance, and speed. You need a wide variety of workouts, and a lot of them are similar to the workouts I mentioned in my 5K video, but also in my mile running video. And it all starts with building an aerobic base, building more strength. And a lot of you, if you're younger, if you're in school, or if you're older and you're moving down in distance maybe, you need to have a lot. The higher the mileage, generally the better, but you can't get hurt or burnt out. And when you increase your mileage, you want to do it very relaxed and very easy, because otherwise it's very easy to get hurt. So conversational pace, a pace you could talk at and run. When I was back in high school, when I started running the 3K, we upped our mileage from about 30 miles a week to 35, 40 miles a week. I was hitting on average 45 miles a week, and that difference really seemed to help my 3K time. My friend and I, training partner, we'd go out in the winter in Oregon and run around We had this nice 7-mile loop that we'd run at about 7-minute mile pace, which was probably a little too hard for me at the time. I still run my easy days at 7-minute pace, but before that we were trying to run as fast as we could on our easy days, and it was just too hard. So whether it's 7-minute pace or 8-minute pace, that's up to your individual level, but we could carry on a conversation as we were running, and we were just putting in base miles. We were doing that. We were doing some strides, 4 by 100 meters, relaxed at 90% top speed, the full recovery, just really easy stuff most of the winter, building base for outdoor track. It's a lot like when you train for cross country in the fall. You build your base over the summer, and it's a summer sport played out in the fall. What you do in the off season, so to speak, could really help you during the season when you're actually racing all spring or whenever your track season is. A lot of you guys might have indoors in the 3K. So I was doing that a lot junior year. There were some improvements. I ran 9:01 for 3K as a sophomore, which I was really proud of. And that ended up being the time I had to put down on my college applications, because my junior year I got slower. I got set back. It was horrible. I was overtraining. Don't make that mistake. But then my senior year I regrouped. I was mad that on my college applications I had to put down a sophomore time. Even though it was already too late, I still wanted to run a fast 3K as a senior. So we went out in the winter, and I remember this distinctively because we didn't have indoor track at all in Oregon. It wasn't a regular season, but there were indoor meets up in Seattle in the state of Washington. I could go up to the University of Washington indoor track, really fast track, and run a 3K in like February. And so I was like, oh, this is great. I told my friend, like, I'm gonna train for this 3K race. So what I do is we've been running easy base after cross country in December and January. But then in the middle of January, I decide 4 weeks before the race, I'm gonna start doing some hard interval workouts. And forget the 20-minute tempo runs. I'm gonna burn up speed on the track because I wanna be fast and I wanna show these colleges that I'm ready to run college, D1. So what I do is I do a 4-week block of intervals, high intensity intervals. I remember starting with 8 by 1,000 as my workout, 8 by 1,000, running pretty fast, faster than my 5K cross country pace for these kilometer repeats, which is a good VO2 max workout. It's a good workout with a 2-minute rest. And then I'm doing 400 meter repeats. I think we were doing them under 70 seconds per quarter at least, with like a 1.5 minute type of rest. So I'm doing 12 by 400. I'm doing 400s and 1000s. I'm doing some mile repeats. You start doing mile repeats close to about 5K pace as well, 4 to 5 by a mile. Pretty grueling workouts, pretty hard workouts, and maybe throwing some 150, 200 meter fast stuff in there. But it was too hard too soon. And what had happened was it got me in really good shape really fast. You start doing interval training, you're gonna start getting in shape fast, you get your speed back, you're working on your leg turnover, 400 meter repeats, 1,000 meter repeats, 800 meter repeats, and what else did I say? I was doing, and mile repeats, very high intensity VO2 max types of workouts, and it got me in shape really fast. I went out to that indoor meet. I ran at 8:46 for 3K, which was my first time under 9. This is for 3,000 meters, not 2 miles. But it's equivalent to about a 9:23, 9:25, 2 mile. And I was like, yes, I finally made it. Now I'm gonna really increase my fitness for outdoor track season later in the spring when it counts. Well, the problem is I never ran any faster than that. I actually ran slower. 2 months later, I went to a really good invitational meet, in Oregon, and guys like Galen Rupp were there. We'll try to cue some footage of Galen running something, blowing our doors off basically. We had so many guys running under 8:30 in the 3K. It was crazy that year. But I wasn't one of them. I went from running 8:46 indoors for 3K to running 8:49 outdoors to not finishing my district meet and never making it to state and track. And I don't want you to make that same mistake by burning it too hot too early with high intensity intervals. And part of the problem in that was I got too eager. And you're gonna have to listen to your coach if you're in a school program. Pretty much you don't really have a choice probably, but if you're not relaxed and building base in the off season and staying healthy, then it's going to be hard to continue to improve as the months go on throughout the season. And you could kind of race yourself into shape throughout the season by tuning up with shorter distance events, by running the mile, and by, you know, doing more stamina-based workouts like the 20-minute tempo run. And I wish I did more of that in high school, was doing more tempo runs. And we did a couple, but we had the mileage base. I got too excited doing really hard 800-meter repeats, 1,000-meter repeats, and mile repeats, and I kind of overdid it. You don't really need to do more than once every 10 days, really, if you're racing during the season. You treat your races as workouts, but then you treat the VO2 max workouts, and you realize that in 4 weeks' time, you could peak pretty fast, but then you're gonna start losing your edge. You're gonna lose your peak. Your muscle fibers are gonna get tired. You're basically gonna not have any more ceiling for improvement until you reestablish aerobic base. And that's the big lesson that I learned. And you know, I made the same mistake sometimes in college as well, running the 5K and 10K. So I guess in closing, I know I've kind of rambled on in this training talk, but if you have enough speed to run under 4:45 for the mile, you need to just build your endurance so that you could run to 4:59s back to back for the 2 mile. And what that takes is a lot of threshold tempo run types of workouts, as well as easy pace mileage with maybe a longer run in there. I also did a half marathon when I was in high school. Don't always recommend that, but training more like that in the off season, so that when you do start doing higher intensity intervals, and don't totally go to the well on these high intensity intervals, save your 100% effort for the races, that you have that ceiling for improvement and that fitness progression that will take you through the whole entire season and to peak when it counts the most. And you know, it's gonna be all about timing. I can't give away all our secrets in one talk, because you could get our book for that, The Sage Running Secret. That's more for ultra running, but that's really the magic of what coaches do with periodization and the mix of workouts at the right time during the season. This chainsaw's drowning me out. That's the real magic to the program and to the coach and to what needs to be done. But it will take a mix of 1,000-meter repeats, 800-meter repeats, 400-meter repeats, 200-meter repeats, some basic speed, easy speed development drills, things like that, but also the longer VO2 max stimulus and also race-specific velocity. You know, getting used to running 75 seconds per quarter, getting used to running 70 seconds per quarter, so 75 seconds per quarter feels more comfortable, and then maybe doing tempo runs closer to 6-minute mile pace, or whatever it is for you, young whippersnappers, if you're running a 5-minute mile for 2 in a row. But that's my rant on training for the 3K 3,200 meter. Again, it's better to train more like a 5K runner in the off season and then bring down the speed by racing some miles and shorter distances as you get closer to your peak. In general, that's the way to do things, less specific to more specific. But yeah, don't do what I did and burn out too early by cranking every workout and having muscle failure and running with sloppy form and things like that. Always want to keep good form, always want to keep things at, it's better to be at 95% than trying to go 105% and totally bonking and locking up from lactic acid and things like that, because it will hurt your progress. But race tactics. So race tactics, this will be short, just even split it. Generally it's gonna be really hard to negative split. Most of my PRs were generally, in high school it was a slight positive split. I know when I ran 8:46 for 3K, it was basically even 70-second quarters all the way. But I also jumped on a pack. But yeah, it's gonna be, even split's gonna generally be the most efficient. You're gonna have to work really hard in the middle laps, especially, you know, 1.5 miles in. Probably the 5th lap is probably the real key, because you're breaking it down. You're trying to, you know, coast through the first mile under 5, and it's not gonna feel real comfortable, but it should not be unbearable. And then after that, you just don't wanna slow down, you know, from 1 mile to 1.25 miles. You know, the 5th lap, the 6th lap, that's when people usually slow down. And then, you know, anything you have left, you're just trying to maintain for the final 800. And hopefully you can muster up a weak kick in the last 400 meters or the last 300 or 200 meters and sneak under the time that you're going for and accelerate. But if you can't, at least you were holding even and you're not slowing down too much for that second mile. So it's real key. It helps to be in a pack that's running even splits in a race where there's no wind on the track, I will say. But again, you know, if you've trained for it and you've prepared mentally, then you just go out and you execute. And you know, high school running, track running, it's tough. There's nowhere to hide, and the splits don't lie. So more kudos to you guys for going out there and trying to run your best 2 mile. It's a tough event, but I really respect it, and it's really fun to progress and to get those big PRs. So hopefully this training talk helps. Thank you so much for all your support. Feel free to comment below for future training talk topics as well as vote, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.